Hello, my name is Jo Mynard, and I'm delighted to welcome Diego Mideros today. And I'm sure you know, but he has just published a book called Am I an Autonomous Language Learner? Self-Perceived Autonomy in Trinidad and Tobago, Sociocultural Perspectives. And Diego is a lecturer in Spanish at the University of the West Indies in that's San Agustin campus in Trinidad and Tobago. And he holds a PhD in linguistics awarded by the same university. Just briefly, just to say a little bit about the book, it explores sociocultural elements and conditions that enable individuals to see themselves as autonomous learners in formal educational settings. And what's so unique about this book is that the learners are learners of Spanish and they're set in Trinidad and Tobago. So welcome, Diego. It's lovely to see you here. And could you tell us a little bit about the book in your own words?
In the book, I explore autonomy in Trinidad and Tobago, and I did that by looking at my students. And I did so specifically looking at different sociocultural theories and what those sociocultural theories could help me shed light on my students' autonomy, given the sociocultural factors and the sociocultural reality of Trinidad and Tobago. So I wanted to see and study their autonomy situated in this country.
That's fantastic. And maybe, you know, it's quite interesting. I'm really interested in how you got interested in learner autonomy and sociocultural theory. Maybe could you tell us a little bit about your academic background and what led you to this point?
I majored in Spanish and English. I am from Colombia. So I went to a teacher's university in Colombia between 2001 and 2005. I ended up majoring in English by mistake. Well, not by mistake, but it was nothing I had. It was not something I had planned. My first language is Spanish. And when I was 18, 19, I didn't speak English. I was not good at English when I was in secondary school. I actually failed English and I had to do over an entire academic year because of English. So after that, I think that was something that hit me hard because I had to do over an entire academic year. So I pushed myself to get to understand English, because to me it was something abstract. It was not something I was interested in. I liked the sound of it. I liked what I saw on TV. I liked music, but it still was like math, something abstract, something that as a teenager I was not interested in. But after that, I pushed myself and I started to understand it better, and that helped me understand the language. I also remember that I had an English teacher in school, and she once told me, or told us in class, guys, do not make your life so complicated. English is a lot easier than Spanish. And when she said that, something clicked, and I started to see that, yeah, perhaps English was a lot easier than Spanish. And that led me to study English, among other reasons that I won't speak about here. So I majored in Spanish and in English. I struggled a little bit, but I fell in love with it. It was a teacher's university, so it was to go out and teach. When I was finishing university, I knew that I wanted to teach English. So after being a failure in English, I fell in love with it and I wanted to teach it. So I decided that I wanted to travel abroad. I did not take any study abroad opportunities. So I told my mom that I wanted to travel abroad. She wanted to give me a car as a graduation gift. And I told her, no, thank you. I don't want that. Give me the money to travel. We did not have a lot of money. So the usual destinations, the United States, Canada, or the UK was, they were not an option for me. And I met some people from Jamaica, and they came to my university as part of an exchange program. And that's when I met people who were in the Caribbean. The Caribbean was not that far from Colombia. So I thought maybe I could try and go to one of those countries. My first option was Guyana, which is in South America, and I did an online search and I didn't find anything. My second choice was Trinidad, and when I Googled, I found the University of the West Indies. I saw that they had English courses for foreigners, and I told myself, I'm going there, and I did that. It just happened that I came and I never left. So I came and I happened to find a job teaching Spanish because I majored in Spanish. Then I saw opportunities to continue to study. So I did my master's in education at the university, and I fell in love with qualitative research because of that program, and I said to myself I could go further and do a PhD, and I signed up for the PhD in linguistics, and the rest is history. So I've been in Trinidad and Tobago since 2006. It's been 16 years. And yeah, so I have my undergrad degree in Spanish and English, but that was a teaching degree. Then I did my master's in education and my PhD in linguistics. And right now I am finishing a postgraduate certificate in university teaching and learning.
Wow, what a fantastic story. I feel like I got your life story there. That was amazing. And I can see now how, you struggled yourself.
I cut it short. I tried to keep it brief.
That was a short version. So you struggled as a language learner yourself. So I can really see how the themes in your book, come out. You obviously had great empathy with your students, and that I'm sure that led you to think about approaches to supporting them.
I don't think I answered your question, but my failure was the push that helped me see that it was my responsibility. So I never really blamed anybody, but not even myself, but I saw, okay, I mean, I can take this on myself to do well in English. And I did it, and it worked.
So you became an autonomous learner. So the question that you start with in your book, am I an autonomous language learner, was really fundamental for you. And I can see how then you bring this out.
It was. In the case of English, it was. So I was definitely an autonomous language learner. I have tried to learn other languages, and I have not been that autonomous. So I will give you a story later.
Oh, interesting. And then, it was nice to hear about how you ended up in Trinidad and Tobago and the opportunities that you've made while you've been there. So that's brilliant. And you're still learning. It's so inspiring.
I am still learning, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe you can tell me a little bit about the study then. So this, I think what you present in your book is quite an in-depth look at your learners. And how did you get started with the actual research for this?
Well, so here I have my baby. This is my PhD that I made into this book, which is completely not completely different, but it is a very modified version of my PhD. As I told you, I come from Colombia. I majored in English in a public university in Colombia. So public universities in Colombia, they don't have a lot of resources. Actually, I never had a native speaker teacher teaching me. So all of my professors or lecturers were Colombian, and I think that my level was very good at the end of the program. So when I came to Trinidad, I saw that most of the lecturers and professors and teachers, they were native speakers. The facilities that the university had in their language program were amazing compared to the facilities that I had in Colombia. And the level that students come into the program with, in most cases, is very good. So they come to the program actually speaking Spanish. However, so I was impressed by all of that, and I saw it as a perfect environment to learn and to make learning happen. And as I had just graduated, it was very fresh in my mind. My students were like very similar to me. It was just that they were learning Spanish. Mm-hmm. And then I came with with all of these fresh and exciting ideas, and I wanted to make learning happen, and I was very active, and I started to see some resistance from my students. So they resisted because they found that even though I was young, I was giving them a lot of work to do. And they started to complain that, I mean, I was giving them too much work. And it was something that, I mean, it was not one or two cases, it was a lot of them. So I found that interesting because I started to compare their experience to mine, and I thought, oh my God, if I had had all of those opportunities when I was in Colombia, it would have been fantastic. I mean, my experience was great, but if I had had all the resources and the opportunities they have, it would have been lovely. But they complained a lot. And also, like, all the resources that I was impressed by, I did not see them using them as actively as they should. So I became very interested in that behavior that I was observing. And also, if anything I was teaching or anything I brought to class, students would ask, okay, is this coming in the exam? Like, is this really important? Do we really need to learn this? And then when I went to departmental meetings, faculty meetings, I kept hearing my colleagues speaking about our students are very exam driven, and they were speaking about that very casually, and I was shocked by it because my experience was not like that. In Colombia, we didn't really have exams. We had a lot of coursework, but we didn't have exams. So really and truly, if I wanted to do well, I had to put in the effort, but it was not a final exam. But here there are a lot of final exams. So that's what got me interested in the topic. I had been doing a lot of reading on Paulo Freire and the pedagogy of the oppressed, and also critical theory, and that was for my master's. And that's what got me interested in autonomy. And I felt that throughout my early studies and my early contact with research, autonomy was always something that kept coming up personally, and what I saw among my students. And it was interesting to see how some students are, regardless, they are already autonomous, or they seem autonomous, like you have this intuition, that student is autonomous, even if you are not familiar with all the literature. But you do have the intuition. So I wanted to take my intuition further and study autonomy, and that's what I did for my PhD. And then I made it something more reader friendly and less thesis like, and that's this is the result of that.
That's great. So why did you decide to write the book? I mean, you could just let people read your thesis, but why did you decide to turn it into this book?
Well, my oral exam was fabulous. I really had a lovely experience. Yes, I had a lovely experience. It was nice. It was really a lovely experience. It took me a long time to write my dissertation. It took me over 7 years. But then I remember my examiner saying, good things take time. And then you see how some people say that a good thesis is a finished thesis, and a great thesis is a published thesis. So I wanted to publish mine. So that was my my impetus to try to get it published, because I think it was good. I felt confident, and my experience was good. So I reached out to you and I said, okay, well, I have this project. What do you think about it? And yeah, it was very thesis-like, but making it into a book was even it was more interesting because I thought, okay, well, the thesis is ready, let's just publish it. And then when the reviewers' comments came, it was like, oh, well, it's a fantastic thesis, but it's not a book. So it was the process to make the PhD thesis into a book. It was a lovely process. It was something that I really enjoyed.
Oh, I'm so relieved that you said that, because yeah, we had a lot of feedback for you, and
I really enjoyed it.
I mean, Garrel,
And also I'm writing in English, so
yeah.
I'm confident and I'm comfortable, but I know that my English is not perfect. I don't think it will ever be perfect. So I make mistakes and I keep learning. So it's all a learning process. And it also speaks of my autonomy, because choosing to, I could very well just write in Spanish, but it has been my choice to push myself and write in English. And even though it's something that sometimes is time consuming and painful, it is something that I enjoy. Like when it's out there, when it's finished, it gives you an incredible sense of achievement. So I'm very happy.
Yeah, oh, that's good. No, it was an absolute pleasure to work on the book with you, Diego. I mean, it wasn't any hardship at all. It was wonderful. And just seeing the results as well, to see how it was very thesis-like, very rigorous, very thorough, and how you transformed that into something that's so readable, so engaging, that anyone can pick up and enjoy, regardless of what context you're in or which language you're teaching. I think everyone can relate to the themes that pop up in the book. I think you did a fantastic job. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have any advice for someone who, is at the stage where they finish their thesis and they feel they'd like to publish? What would you recommend that they do?
I recommend that they do what I didn't do, and what you asked me to do when I submitted my draft to you. You sent me a few links. I did not look at them. Look at those links. Look at those links, because I mean, it's two different writing styles. It's two completely different things. I remember Garrel said, okay, well, this is amazing. I'm sure that your examiners were impressed, but this is not something for the public. This is not something for the audience. And all of those comments, although they may be hard to read, it is a lovely learning experience, because when you sit down and you rethink, you do the work, and if it's a topic that really you feel passionate about, I mean, you just put in the work. But yeah, I mean, it's two different writing styles. For your PhD, you are really trying to prove that you know your stuff, and that you're writing for your examiners. But when you transform that into a book that it is for a different audience, you have to keep that audience in mind. In my case, for example, I see myself as a purely qualitative researcher and writer. So I remember when I was writing, we had like presentation seminars where they would assess your job, the progress that you're making. And it's very much like an oral exam. So you have two independent assessors and they read your work. And I remember one of them told me, this is a PhD, you should not be using the first person. So remove all the I references. And that annoyed me greatly. That annoyed me, but I took up the challenge. So I was like, you know what? I think I could do this. So it was an interesting writing exercise. So I challenged myself and I wrote my entire dissertation without using I once. I did not use I once. And then it was interesting because, and then it's like for the PhD, you have to build this academic tone. Mm-hmm. And you feel like, okay, well, I have achieved and I have learned or I have acquired this academic tone that I may want to use for the rest of my life as an academic. And then I submitted the book and you said, oh, no, please use the first person, yes, singular throughout. Yes. And I was like, okay, I'm very confused. So what's going on? So should I not? But I mean, it has to do with the audience, and it's like what you want to be looked at. If it is that you want to present yourself in a friendly manner, with a friendly voice. So in the book, I take the voice of a teacher. So it's not like I'm a researcher anymore. I'm taking the voice of a teacher who is sharing an experience with the audience, and I think that that is more relatable to other teachers and maybe teachers who want to do research in the area.
Definitely. And for me, just having, obviously you interpreted the data, so you can't get away from the yourself. You interpreted the data in your way. I mean, you're an expert in qualitative research, so that must make a lot of sense to you. And so yes. I hope that the overly formal academic tone is not necessary, I think, in this kind of work. This is just a preference for a PhD. And
I love it because now I feel that I know both. And it's a lovely thing. So it's been a lovely learning process. Like, I mean, you never stop learning, and rewriting this book, because I had to rewrite it. It was a pleasure. It was really nice. I really enjoyed it. I every time I finished a chapter, I was like, yeah, they were right. All their comments were right. Like at first, when I first read them, I was like, oh God, I have to rewrite this. But when I did it, it was, I felt, as I'm telling you, I feel a sense of achievement that it's incomparable to anything.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. We got there in the end. It was wonderful. I know it's taken time. It took you years to do the PhD and then the book after that, but it was definitely worth it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Good things take time.
And in that time, have you changed as a teacher and researcher? Has this process changed you?
Completely. Completely. Yes, because at first, I think the project began as a sort of criticism to what I was seeing in my students, and to see them as exam-driven individuals, exam-driven learners. So I don't think that was a very positive way of looking at them. But as I interacted with them, as I interviewed them, as I read and reread the interviews, I think that I started to empathize with them. I started to empathize with them and to understand where they are coming from. And I mean, my experience in Colombia is my experience in Colombia, and I don't think that I should compare my experience to them, but I should look at their experience and try to understand their experience in context. So perhaps I saw that the sociocultural element of assessment and formal assessment would be something that was not consonant, congruent, that was not in line with autonomy. But then the notion of social autonomy, that there is autonomy everywhere you go, regardless of where you go, and you will find autonomous learners wherever you go. It made me see that that one, I mean, that is the way they have been socialized, and two, maybe it is my responsibility to find ways to make lemonade out of lemons. That's what I have to work with. So it is my responsibility to use that to my advantage, instead of making it a terrible issue. So if it is that they are exam driven, I have to find ways to use that to work on their autonomy, to develop their autonomy, even if that's the case, because that's not something that I will be able to change. And I don't think that's something it's going to change anytime soon. So I have changed. I have become a better person, a better teacher. I have more empathy with my students. I came here when I was 24. Now I'm 41. So of course, with age, you become more empathetic, I feel. But that has been my case. And also with all the reading, all the writing, and yeah, it has changed me. Like autonomy has changed how I see teaching, how I see myself, how I see my students. So most definitely.
Brilliant, thank you. It's really interesting how you said when you came here, you were saying, well, why are students, why don't they do this? Why do they do that? And then at the end of the story, you were talking about how you appreciate where they're coming from and them as the starting point. and
Correct.
so empathizing with what their reality is rather than comparing with what you knew before.
Correct.
Yeah, what a journey. Fantastic. So what's next for you? Are you working on anything that you want to tell us about?
Yes, I am working on an edited volume with higher renders and two colleagues here. My PhD supervisor, Beverly Ann Carta, and another colleague, Nicole Roberts. We are editing for the innovation series, Innovation in Teaching and Learning. So we are writing the case of the Caribbean. So we're in the middle of that. So hopefully that will come up whenever it comes up, but it should come up soon. It should come out. It should come out soon.
That's
so
good.
That's what I'm working on. Next academic year in September, there will be some changes in my teaching. So for the past 5 years, I've been teaching non-specialist learners. So before, my book is based on specialist language learners because this was the degree program. But since 2017, now I'm teaching in the university's Center for Language Learning. So I teach non-specialist students, which has been a joy because those are students who are learning the language because they want to learn. Okay. So I don't have the same issue. Is this coming? Is this coming for the exam? Is this going to be tested? So that is going to change. That is going to change. So there will be a few changes. So there is a new policy that the university is going to implement. And I will have to teach students who are required to do a language because there is a foreign language requirement. So I am going to look at autonomy, and I'm also going to look at technology because of the pandemic now. Also, we learned that there's a lot that we can do online. So I will look at engagement and motivation in online environments. So I will be focusing on that for the next 2 years.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that will all keep you very busy, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean, autonomy is at the core of everything I do, and it's my first love with qualitative research.
Okay. Well, Diego, thank you so much. That's really lovely to get your backstory, and I'm sure this will encourage people to seek out your book if they haven't done so already. So it's Am I an Autonomous Language Learner? Self-Perceived Autonomy in Trinidad and Tobago, Sociocultural Perspectives, published by Candlin, Mynard, very recently. Okay, thank you very much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.